Some final steps down memory lane for your ears only. I'm David Alpern, but first another quote from last week's news. I know it's just a business now. That was disillusioned football fan Nicole Laverick of Chicago after disappointing NFL and team reaction to the latest domestic abuse cases, including that of Minnesota Vikings Adrian Peterson involving his 4-year-old son and Jonathan Dwyer of the Arizona Cardinals involving an 18-month-old and its mother. With fans and sponsors backing away, NFL boss Roger Goodell refused to resign, but pledged a better policy next year. Now, another aspect of abuse from our February 29, 2004 Newsweek On Air broadcast with co-host Sandy Kozel of AP.
The heartfelt sorrow that we feel for this violation and the often ineffective ways with which it was dealt has strengthened our commitment to do everything possible to see that it does not happen again.
That's Bishop Wilton Gregory, president of the U.S. Conference of Bishops, responding to the National Review Board's long-awaited review of the priest abuse crisis in the Roman Catholic Church. The stunning results from a pair of studies found more than 10,000 reported cases of alleged abuse, incidents which rose slowly in the 1950s, climbed quickly in the next decade, and peaked between 1970 and 80 when 800 alleged abuse incidents happened each year.
Among the findings of the study compiled by the John Jay College of Criminal Justice in New York, 81% of the alleged sexual abuse victims were male, and of all priests against whom allegations were made, only 2% received prison sentences. The Catholic Church so far has paid out more than $657 million for legal expenses and treatment of priests. The report places heavy blame on bishops, saying they failed to report abuse to police, allowed suspected abusers to stay in parishes, and spent $572 million on legal settlements and counseling.
Joining us for reaction is James Post, president of the Voice of the Faithful, which describes itself as a worldwide movement of mainstream Catholics formed in response to the clergy's sexual abuse crisis. Mr. Post, how accurate do you think the study's count of alleged abuse cases is?
Well, I think probably the study is underreporting both the numbers of victims and possibly the number of priests. I think but the estimates on priests are twice what we've been led to believe before. So I think the overall picture is one of magnitude of a tragedy that is just enormous and absolutely requires fundamental change.
And what about the absence of accountability for the role Catholic bishops may have played in all this?
The absence of accountability is a central omission in this report. I think there's no question that the questions that reasonable people have are, what did they know, when did they know it, and what did they do about it? And we have no answers to those questions.
You've even created an online petition now calling for bishop accountability. What are you asking people to sign on to?
There are three petitions that need to be, we're asking people to sign. One, to ask the Vatican to remove bishops who knowingly transferred abusive priests. We're calling on bishops to cooperate with public authorities in the investigation, and we're calling on bishops to resign voluntarily if they have been complicit in the movement of predators.
Bishop Gregory saw as a positive sign the drop-off in abuse cases reported as the years have gone by. Do you see that as an improvement in the situation, that the church has turned the corner?
We certainly hope that that's the case, but I think we also have to look at the data that they presented that shows that the number of victims who have come forward has exploded in the last 2 years. So I think the jury is out in terms of the direction of this trend. My suspicion is that we're going to see many more victims come forward.
Of course, the bishops created the National Review Board, which has overseen these studies and called for them, which came out last week. But how much credit goes to lay people and groups such as yours who've been pushing for an accounting?
It was the lay review board, the National Review Board, all composed of lay people that worked so hard to make this happen. Laity really has to be up and out of their chairs, and they have to be calling for change. This report speaks to the past, but it also speaks to the future for the Catholic Church. That future depends on an active laity demanding change, real deep cultural change in the Church.
And going back to the initial problem, what kind of changes in the selection of candidates for the priesthood or their training would you like to see to make sure the men with abusive tendencies do not become priests?
Certainly the kind of testing that needs to be done has to be much more rigorous. We also think that there ought to be more lay involvement in the review of candidates as they move through the seminaries. After all, they are going to be ministering to a population of laity. I think the laity has a big stake in knowing that they have qualified seminarians and qualified priests.
James Post is president of the Catholic lay group The Voice of the Faithful.
From our February 29, 2004 Newsweek On Air broadcast, repeated in our Best of 2004 show, along with an October 3rd tribute to fashion and celebrity photographer Richard Avedon, who died days later. Specifically, his response on our September 5th, 1993 show to charges he exploited every surface flaw of his subjects.
Of course. So there are two things there. One is the question of cruelty, which is absurd in the matter of art. You would never say that about Goya's portraits or Horrors of War. You would never say it about Francis Bacon. There's no cruelty involved with showing what I see and, more importantly, what I feel. I photograph as a painter would paint, as a way of expressing my life view. When I see a retouched face or a so-called a good angle, someone's good angle, very often you get that with celebrities who have a sense of what they look like. I see something usually quite false and unnatural and unfamiliar to me. When I walk down the street, when I meet someone for the first time, I have an immediate impression. And it doesn't have to do with glorious lighting and a cosmetic version of what the world is supposed to be. I'm as much, I would think, any good photographer is as much an artist as a man with a brush or a writer is works with a typewriter or his pencil.
Avedon on our September 5th, 1993 show. He also noted long before he was the model for a photographer played by singer-dancer Fred Astaire in the film Funny Face, Avedon had based his own suave style on the earlier films of Astaire.
I love your funny face, your sunny, funny face.
Astaire in Funny Face. And this has been For Your Ears Only.